Regina Doherty, and you've just 7.5 minutes.
Thank you. Cancula. This bill allows for one of the most important referenda, I think, in the history of the state. And I'm always appreciative of speaking time in this House, but I'm particularly grateful to be able to speak today on something which is particularly close to my heart. The cornerstone of any democracy and its constitution are that equality should be at the foundation of our democracy. And with this legislation, we're finally including our children under the protection of our constitution. And in fairness, I don't think anybody can object to that. It's been over 30 years since the then Senator Mary Robinson first expressed the need for a constitutional change for children. In the intervening period, a series of official reports have made the case for strengthening children's rights at constitutional level. These include the Kilkenny Incest Report in 1993, the Constitutional Review Group in 1996, the Joint Oireachtas Committee on the Constitutional Amendment on Children 2010, as well as international authorities such as the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child in 1998 and again in 2006, and the European Commissioner for Human Rights in 2007 and more recently 2011. As evidenced by the marches in support of victims of child abuse, the public appetite for the people of this country for change is also clear. It has taken this government to have the courage to acknowledge the state's responsibility to children. Upon taking office, this government immediately made the significant inroads to improving Ireland's child welfare and protection systems with the appointment of a senior government minister for children, the establishment of a department for children and young people. These are big and important steps. We've already seen momentum with child protection reforms taking place with the Child and Family Support Agency and the legislation on Children's First, the Criminal Justice Withholding Information on Crimes Against Children and Vulnerable Adults Bill, and the National Vetting Bureau Bill. All mark significant progresses in the direction of Ireland's commitment to improving child protection and welfare, and sets Ireland on course to meeting the recommendations set out by the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child in 2006. We need laws that will protect children from harm and give them status as individuals. Now, with the insertion of explicit children's rights into the Constitution that have been mooted for a long time, and our Fine Gael and Labour government are now keeping that promise to hold such a referendum, a children's referendum. We will be voting to insert an article into the Constitution, as the Taoiseach has said himself, dedicated entirely to children as individuals, as citizens in their own rights. For the first time in the history of state, children will become more than just the property of their parents. I would like to compliment Minister Fitzgerald and her department for all of their work in getting this piece of legislation ready. She took the time to get it right, and it has been very noticeable that the response to the wording from all corners of the spectrum has been welcoming, including the opposition. We've had a plethora of reports highlighting the neglect, abuse, and exploitation when children's voices were silenced and their best interest ignored. Those working with and for children agree that constitutional change is required to ensure that children are fully protected in society and that their rights are taken into account in decisions made about their lives. So why do we need a constitutional amendment to strengthen the rights of children? Well, at a minimum, the express and individual rights for children at constitutional level will reflect the value we place on our children in society, and ensuring that they are the focus in budgetary, political, administrative, legislative and other decisions affecting them. The lack of recognition of individual rights of the child has led to some very poor judicial decisions affecting children. Unlike cases involving children of unmarried parents, in cases involving children of marital families, due to the constitutional presumption in favour of the family under Article 41, no independent investigation can be undertaken as to the child's best interests in the court's decision-making unless exceptional circumstances prevail. A key example of that maybe is the Baby Ann case. The Constitution allows discrimination to persist between children based on the marital status of their parents, with the strengths of the rights afforded to the child reliant on whether their parents are married or unmarried. The Baby Ann case, as I've said, is an example of the rigid judicial interpretation of Articles 41 and 42 and how they have impinged upon the effective operation of our child protection, care and adoption systems. Children's rights are human rights, with particular attention to the rights of special protection and care afforded to the young. With this referendum, we are acknowledging the move towards viewing child protection through the lens of children's rights, and indeed through human rights' lens. The field of children's rights spans the fields of law, politics, religion, and morality. Children in Ireland, as in many other European countries, were historically sidelined in society. The foundation of our state in 1922 inherited a 1908 Act that was to be the main instrument for child protection for most of the 20th century until the enactment of the Child Care Act in 1981. The failure to amend and overhaul that legislation for more than 80 years speaks eloquent of how we actually viewed our children. The 1937 Constitution largely saw children in the context of the family, interpreted to mean only the marital family. Children's rights were not considered. That their voices were not heard, that their family ties were not respected, is now well recognised. The lack of recognition and complete disregard for the human rights of children and young people inevitably led to a situation where policy focused on protecting the income of the institution, a state that did little or nothing to increase support of families in need. Childhood is a precious time. It doesn't last very long. Children must be protected and their rights promoted to ensure that they are consistently treated with the respect and dignity they deserve. The wording to be inserted into the Constitution is crucial to its success and balances the right of children with those of their parents. Most significantly, the best interests of the child are to be first and a paramount consideration in the resolution of all disputes concerning the guardianship, adoption, custody, care or upbringing of a child.
1 minute, please.
Making children visible in the Constitution will help to foster a new legal landscape for children in Ireland. Perhaps the greatest adjudication on the proposed amendment I heard recently came from a lady called Anne Renison, who for 25 years has fostered 6 children long-term and 20 short-term. She said on Morning Ireland the other morning that the referendum will acknowledge the rights of children, hear the voice of children, the children who in the past and to this day are no longer safe in our society. I think this is chilling and tragic. And, you know, it's a huge endorsement of the way we have approached things in the past. In conclusion, Count Corla, if this amendment can prevent one more crime against a child, if it can make one more child's life safe, if it can make one family more complete, then this House will have done a good day's work.